Right. So, as part of our EDI learning, which is about electronic data interchanges and all that, because in the last session we have discussed about what EDI, how it works, right? So, what are the different EDI transactions code we normally use? Transaction sets, something like 834, 835, 270, 271, all that. Today, I'm going to discuss about EDI configuration because whenever we wants to configure EDI configuration files, which majorly contains all the standard EDI format configurations, especially uh, how to merge the data from different EDI segment files by creating different domains within EDI projects and all that. At the same time, whenever we try to modify the EDI configurations files, because we need to identify the configuration management because there are two things. One is about the configuration part, second is integration part. Configuration majorly focusing on the application, how this can be configured. That's what generally configuration management stands for. When it comes to the migration means migrating your existing application to other applications. That's what we call it as migration stands for. Now, when we try to understand the EDI configurations, especially EDI configuration files majorly defines the naming convention for the EDI configurations, majorly whatever the generated EDI output files we have. So wherein all these things we need to configure in the project board because when we are working on the projects, especially whatever the required projects we have, you can see here we have linked this EDI to different project versions. You can see here top right side, you can see linked project version of so and so. This is what generally the EDI configurations is something which we did, which normally we link it to that. So whenever we are configuration this is all something we need to configure. Either it can be name because name majorly defines the unique name ID of EDI configuration and all that. Next, EDI configuration file name, which majorly defines you the configuration file which these EDI segments or merger receivers will read, especially to create EDI documents or transaction sets, etc. Next one about the output file name formats, which majorly defines the format for the name of EDI output files. Everything comes under that EDI file configurations when you are making any changes on the EDI configuration files. This is what something we need to update. When you are configuring this, it's always important wherein we must be knowing about what are the different steps that are required to follow. Either we must ensure that it must be connecting to the project, wherein by updating the project version name, including the EDI transaction version, what we have taken. Next, these are the different EDI segments and loops. Normally, we will be taking either it can be a transaction set header or it can be functional group headers or it can be functional group trailers, right? So everything we need to do. So whenever you want to configure it, whatever the required EDI segments and loops which are essentially needed for us to integrate, those things must be taken into consideration. So once we have taken, we need to identify what are the how many occurs happened during the configuration because we have taken an example for one occurrence, minimum one occurrence we have taken. And it may go up to maximum one occurrences and all that. And each and every occurrences will be called as a loop count, right? So one loop count is one occurrence. That's how generally. Next, what action that is required to perform. So if you want to integrate this EDI configurations, if you want to make it. So what are the action steps that are required you to follow by connecting to the attachments? Here you can see there is an option for attachment where we have. So what are the required attachments do we have and what actions that are to be taken? Everything will be mentioned in this. This is how generally EDI configuration files usually looks like. So whenever you want to configure any kind of applications and all, this is how generally this application configuration and this is how generally the configuration file will be looks like. And tomorrow I'm going to discuss about the dashboard, right? So project dashboard is something which you must be knowing. followed by EDI test data, right? So, or else is there any EDI 834 test cases you want to write from the testing perspective? All these things that we are going to discuss in tomorrow's session.